Hi folks, Dino Bob here with the second episode in Vembre Park, and this time we're going to add a second animal. This is a 5-star animal, so obviously not a choice for a challenge game second animal, but this is a sandbox game, so we get away with it. I've already put boundaries on the exhibit area, and I've got an animal in there to check its happiness, and I've also already taken out the foliage that is not suitable for this animal. So a lot of groundwork preparation this time, getting the colors in for the substrates, and thinking about what else is going to happen with it. You can see that I subsequently decided to smooth some of the ground there. And that's something that keeps happening in these exhibits as I play with them. The original idea gets changed, or I notice something I had missed on the first pass through. So one of the interesting things I discovered in this exhibit, you can see me putting rocks in on this slope, and that one section just off center right now, I didn't end up putting rocks there. And despite its steepness, the dinosaurs walk up that particular path. It's probably steeper than they would like in real life, but who knows? You know, animals do lots of amazing things sometimes. Anyway, in the right-hand side there, you can see the bridge across the river into this section of the park. You will see a little bit of sorry, I'm okay. A little bit of a speed build on some of that bridge a bit later in this video, but I wanted to start it with working on the habitat. The animal is listed as only needing a low wall, and it's certainly functioning that way right now. I think it's probably a little too low for this animal. But that's what the stats are right now, and it may get changed in the future. We'll see. Anyway, I did want to hide the fence and so keep the animal in near the river, but I wanted a sense that the river was still there on the other side. So you can see that I put in reeds right up to the rock barrier, and using the animal to check its navigation and where it might get through on the inside the exhibit. And that's something I regularly do. I don't always record it, but selecting the animal also lets you check your coverage for the vegetation and water to make sure it's still going to be happy in the exhibit. And you saw me do a lot of general broad brushing with the terrain brush, and now you're watching me do adjustments to make the habitat more aesthetic, to shift out of some of those double drops that the brush sometimes does, and also to get plants out of the water. It's okay to have some plants in the water, but some of these plants really would not be right up next to the water, and others would. Working on the rock area, I can play games with finding little holes in where the terrain shows up through the rocks, and plop them in there to not just get a more realistic effect, but also to blend the rocks better into the landscape, which is something one ought to like to do. So here's the animal. It's Charonosaurus, which was originally described as its own species, its own genera, and was subsequently, at least briefly, lumped into Parasaurolophus, and that's where we pretty much find it in the game. Although as Charonosaurus, it does get its own information screen. And it's probably inaccurate at this point. Its crest is probably wrong, since subsequent work showed another animal very closely related to it that has its full crest, which Charonosaurus does not, and well, preserved, and so its crest was probably closer to that than to Parasaurolophus. So since we're in this section of the park, I'm going with this kind of Asian theme for this viewing area. Fairly simple, fairly generic Asian, and going to be reusing this again, I think, at least once, possibly with a slight variation, as one has to do to suit them to the terrain sometimes. You know, I put ramps in so we don't have to worry about elevators or chairlifts. And there's the screen with Charonosaurus listed there, as I had mentioned earlier. The screens continue to have their little bugginess of losing power left and right. The fix for that for me has been to simply select the screen, select the gizmo tool, and immediately click it without moving anything, and then all gets happy till I close the game and come back to it. So a little bit of Parasaurolophus version of Charonosaurus cruising around in the habitat, and that'll pretty much be it for today. I'll be back with another Vembre Park video next Friday, and it will be looking at a little bit of how I'm theming this park. There are hints already in these two videos, so maybe you're ahead of me. If not, all will be made clear. I hope you can join me then. Don't have much more to say about this particular one. Yeah, it's a fairly simple habitat, but it works for the animal. They seem to be happy with it, and that's what matters in a zoo. We will leave our Charonosauruses to go about their business of being dinosaurs. If you like the video, you know how YouTube works, I think, I'm assuming. So help me out, and till next time, be kind to each other. You all take care. Dino Bob out for this week. Bye now.